Hello, this is Layman with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Fantasy Grounds Image Metadata Builder app. This was put out by SmiteWorks, and in this footage here I am taking an existing image and removing the background. So you can use whatever you have available to you. Sometimes programs will come with it, but you need to remove the background of an existing image, rename it aptly because it's important to have a good solid name for your project, and then you're going to export it as a WebP at 75%. That's the recommended size that is on the developer's guide for the Fantasy Grounds platform. That helps with file size and such. Now this is the metadata app. This is what it would look like once you have it installed. It's something that was put out for free by SmiteWorks. You can find the link in the Fantasy Grounds official forums. And as you can see, you have a clip zone. You have where the height and the width are determined from the set measurement region. And then you will type in the expected height. So it would be 1 block or 2 blocks or 3, depending on how tall the creature is. In most cases, it'll only be 1 in height, maybe 2. If your creature is horizontal, you might want to put the width in instead. So like if you have a snake or a long creature, that's where that information would go. And then you also have to set your center point. And once you're done, you're going to save it as an XML file, and that will be saved with the image in the same directory. So if you copy and paste those into the Fantasy Grounds directory, into your campaigns folder and images, make a subfolder and place them in there. So in Fantasy Grounds, once you've done so, you're going to make sure you click on the images link on the top of the assets window, and then you want to click on folder, and you're going to paste those in or copy them into a subfolder. As you can see, I'm naming this for my 2D metadata images. This will be used for the 2D, 3D mode in Fantasy Grounds. Now, you don't have to do this, but if you want to have the standee type images in your combat for 3D, that's what you do. So those two files have to be in the same folder, and they have to have the same name. Once you're done, you hit refresh, and then the image should show up in Fantasy Grounds. So that's how you add these assets into Fantasy Grounds. This is very similar for maps and other images too. Now we're going to go to NPCs, and I have an NPC that's already built. So I'm unlocking it, and then going to the Images tab. I'm going to drag the images that I've just created in the Metadata Builder onto the character sheet, onto, in this case, the token camera section, which is on the bottom right corner of the NPC window on the Images tab. So that's basically the data for that. And now you can see I've navigated back to my downloads folder, which is where it was originally stored. And that way you can kind of get an idea of where the creature was from. Now I also have a flat token that I created using an AI generation tool. And again, I'm going to export this without the background. So the white in the background is going to be taken out. And that's just because of the nature of the program that I'm using. So you can use GIMP, you can use Canva, or you can even use AI now, where you can ask it to not have the background. And as you can see, I'm aptly naming the tokens. So you want to name them something that you'll understand. Usually I'll have a prefix like TKN underscore whatever the name of the creature is, and maybe with a number if you have different variations of the same creature. That way you don't get confused. And this one happens to go into the tokens folder for Fantasy Grounds on the back end. So your tokens have to go into token subfolder, and the regular images go in the images folder in the subfolder at the back end of Fantasy Grounds. So once you've done that, you need to hit refresh, and then if you click on the tokens tab, there's a token, and you can see I drag and drop that onto the back of the NPC, the images window there. So now I have a stand-up token, and I have a flat POG token for the top-down view. And now I'm going to just look for artwork. So this is kind of like a handout, more or less. If the players want to see what the creature looks like, this will have background and stuff in it. So this will go in the images folder as well, but I put it in a subfolder. I put it under artwork or NPC art or something like that. And then once you put it in the images section, you can open up the folder and click the folder button. And then I'm going to make a new subfolder here, so that way you can differentiate between the images. In this case, this is just going to be like art or token art or however you want to name it. And then I'll paste it in there. And once it's in there, I want to make sure that the file name is correct. So it looks like I added art to the prefix. And that way I know that it's artwork and not a token or not a stand-up 2D image. And I'll hit refresh. And then I'm now enabling a map in Fantasy Grounds, so that way I can test it out, see what it looks like. So I'm just using the free Fantasy Grounds battle maps just to kind of test to see what this is going to look like. So I'll put a monster that I've edited or created in the combat tracker, and I'm going to place them on a map just to see what they look like, make sure the tokens look right. This is a good way to test them out before you use them. So all I'm going to be doing is just kind of taking a map, zeroing in on the section where I'm going to place the NPC tokens, and I just kind of play around with it and see what it's going to look like. I just want to kind of do a QA type thing here. So I want to make sure that the map has line of sight and that it is ready to go for this type of test, because I want to make sure it looks right in the game. If you're trying to tell a story, it's nice to know this stuff a little bit ahead of time, what it's going to look like. And this creature happens to be pretty big, so a large creature will usually take up 4 squares. So normally I would place that in the center of 4 squares, not in a square itself, but in where the vertices are, where they come together. And then what I'm doing now is checking to see what type of settings I have in Fantasy Grounds. So in this case, I'm going to have a marker that's going to be a selection tool for whoever has initiative. So this is kind of a newer feature in Fantasy Grounds. So now that I have my initiative selector, I'm going to enable the NPC, or at least make it visible, and then you can kind of see what this indicator is going to look like with the artwork. So that's another thing I check, because if the artwork has the same color as the background or the same color as the initiative indicator, it kind of is hard to see it. So that's another thing I'm kind of checking for. And it looks pretty good. Like you can see, it's responding to the light, and that the initiative selector doesn't blend in with the actual character. But I do notice that the map in the background is kind of, I want to say, similar in color, kind of dark. So that could be a problem in some cases, especially if you're hard at seeing or you don't have very good vision. And now I'm checking to make sure that the lighting's working. And I'm turning on and off the player preview on the maps. And then now here's the 2D mode. So it looks like the token turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It doesn't look bad. It actually has the right shape. You'll notice that they look like they're kind of leaning. And what that is that sometimes the closer you get, it's trying to center the image on the camera view. So it's not really a true 3D view. It's kind of a 2D thing. So when you're moving these tokens around, sometimes it looks weird. So if that's the case, just move the map a little, the view, and then how close you are to the image. That way it doesn't distort as much. And I'm just kind of showing you the different angles and such, and how it impacts the way that you view the token. So it's important to use the metadata tool if you want it to look right. Sometimes you get lucky and you just make a perfect token that's perfectly centered. But if you have like a horizontal one or something that's really oddly shaped, you don't use the image metadata builder app, it's going to look kind of off, or it will look like it's standing different, not standing straight or whatever. And you don't want to have a big gap underneath its feet. It's okay to have a little bit of gap with with transparency under it, because it'll look like he's floating. And there is a setting for creatures that float, such as like a beholder or a bat. It will put in a 5-foot offset, so it's actually floating in the air. That's another thing the metadata builder can do. There is an offset for it. So going back, just kind of looking at the way this thing works, and it is kind of takes a little practice. So anyhow, enjoy. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Have a good one. Happy gaming. Bye-bye.